Alright, what's going on, guys? This is going to be a review/summary of Evangelion Thrice Upon a Time, with a little bit of analysis thrown in as well. So let's get right into it. Now the film starts off with Villa, the anti-nerve organization, landing in Paris, France, which has been converted into core material, i.e. the red structures. A team led by Ritsuko lands on a black pillar, looking to connect so they can activate the anti-L system. Aerial 44A Evas then appear. Fans will immediately recognize that the Eva 44A bears a distinct resemblance to Satchel from the original series. Mari utilizes Unit A to destroy the Evas. However, Eva 444C appears with a positron cannon. Mari lunges in with the Eiffel Tower in hand, but is caught in mid-air. She persists through nevertheless, destroying it along with the 44Bs. Maya and the others activate the pillar, which restores part of the city. They then say that the new Unit 2 will be rebuilt, and Mari will have Unit 8 modified so that it will be compliant with Unit 2. Now in terms of the opening sequence, it's spectacular and enigmatic. The animation is bold, vibrant, and brilliant. I mean, for Christ's sakes, the audacity of having the Eiffel Tower hoisted up and used as a weapon is both daring and exhilarating. All in all, the first 10 minutes give you all the action you can handle, and then some. While the opening credits play, Asuka, Rei, and Shinji walk past numerous failures of Infinity. They then get picked up by Kensuke. Shinji is stimulated awake by an adult Toji, who is now a doctor. He lives within a settlement of 1,000 people, and has since married the class rep, Hikari. The two had a baby together, Tsubame, which fascinates Rei greatly. After dinner, Hikari's father castigates Shinji for his aloof demeanor, but Toji says it's okay. Kensuke takes Shinji to his house, only to find Asuka completely naked. Shinji's indifference, however, doesn't waver. He then sees the DSS choker around Asuka's neck, reminding him of Kaoru's death. Shinji continues to sulk, while a child-minded Rei learns to work the rice fields. Asuka, fed up with Shinji's moping, begins shoving food down his mouth. Shinji then heads out to the ruins of Nerve 2, sitting silently in the ruins. Rei visits the boy, but Shinji tacitly declines her assistance. This point in the movie marks a nadir point. It contrasts the opening in every way imaginable. It is methodical, poignant, and uneventful. The plot feels stagnant, stuck in the mud if you will. Yet this is done purposefully to give the viewer a taste of Shinji's passive disposition. His psychological paralysis has precipitated thoughts of hopelessness and powerlessness. He is no longer motivated in any facet of his life, as noted by the fact that he shows no signs of arousal when Asuka stood completely naked in front of him. He no longer wishes to experience discomfort, yet the act of avoidance has trapped him in a world of misery. It's crucial for the viewer to understand how detrimental this state of mind is, and the importance in ameliorating these chronic ailments through self-compassion. In addition, Shinji needs the courage to branch out by trying new things and talking to new people, thus bringing out facets of himself that were long since dormant. Moving forward, Rei and Asuka continue checking up on Shinji, with no change. Shinji eventually shadows Kensuke while he performs his normal duties, in service of the village. Kensuke teaches the boy how to fish. A while later, while practicing, Rei asks Shinji for a name. Later on, Kensuke prays by his father's grave, imploring Shinji to reconnect with his own father. Kensuke then takes Shinji to Ryoji Kaiji, Misato and Kaiji's son. The elder Kaiji died in the pursuit of stopping the near-third impact. Rei returns Shinji's Walkman, and the boy states that the girl is still Ayanami to him. She then says goodbye as her body is turned into LCL. The Wunder arrives with Shinji and Asuka hopping aboard. Shinji is placed in isolation, while Mari and Asuka have a chat about him. Ritsuko tells Misato about the Wunder's aim of preserving seeds of life. Meanwhile, Fuyutsuki speaks of the fourth impact. He then probes Gendo about the failure of Ayanami Type 6, and whether this was intentional to make Shinji experience the same loss as him. The two then guide the Black Moon to ground zero of the second impact, with the intention of reactivating Unit 13. Mari and Asuka receive new plug suits. Mari then playfully reintroduces herself to Shinji, saying he's changed.
Give me a break. This brat doesn't change so easily.
This is a good point to pause prior to the oncoming action sequences. Dating back to the original series, all the way up to this point, Shinji's dilemma is characterized by a lack of progress in his psychological development. Take note of the fact that all his friends have grown up and started lives on their own. Shinji, on the other hand, remains a 14-year-old boy, to emphasize the lack of development as an individual. He chooses not to change, hence, he is trapped by his own fear. Carl Jung, Swiss psychologist, summarized the matter as follows. The neurotic draws back from his life task, not because of any real impossibility, but because of an artificial barrier invented by himself. From this moment on, he suffers from an internal conflict. Now, the realization of his cowardice gets the upper hand. Now defiance and pride. In either case, his energy is engaged in a useless civil war, and the man becomes incapable of any new enterprise. His efficiency is reduced. He is not fully adapted. He has become, in a word, neurotic. Indeed, Shinji has created an internal rut in which he hides from the world, a metaphorical safe space, as it were, that prevents others from learning more about him. Coincidentally, this psychological tactic prevents him from learning about himself. Shinji's authentic self is constantly being repressed into the caverns of his own soul. His spiritual horizon is constrained, necessitating a broadening to cultivate new interest, new meanings, and new relationships. With that said, let's resume the story. A vision of Kaoru says that him and Shinji will meet again. Wunder aims to neutralize Eva 13, thus ending the chaos. They begin by breaking through the barrier that houses the L containment field. Nerve aims to prevent this from happening, but Wunder breaks through nevertheless. After making its way through the swarms of enemies, Wunder unleashes guided missile destroyers at Nerve HQ. Nerve deploys Eva Series 7 in a massive horde, as Wunder calls upon Mari and Asuka. The two blast their way through the defenses, eventually landing on Nerve HQ. Asuka looks to impale Eva 13, but her Eva demonstrates fear by putting up its own AT field. The wings of light manifest from Nerve warships in a cryptic fashion, indicating an impending impact. Asuka removes her eye patch restraint, allowing her to transform into the Ninth Angel. Eva 13, nevertheless, destroys Eva 2. Asuka is then approached by her original, saying she's a clone of the Shikinami series, as the two are absorbed by Eva 13. Eva Mark 9 infiltrates the Wunder with incredible speed. This next breakpoint will discuss the animation and fight sequences. Now I gotta say, unequivocally, Evangelion Thrice Upon a Time provides a tour de force of action, brilliant imagery, and splendid color choices. I have long contended that Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust is the most gorgeous anime I have ever seen, but Thrice Upon a Time comes extremely close. Each scene flows seamlessly to the next. Yet, at the same time, it feels jarring and unnerving. Like the original series, there are a handful of scenes that will remain etched in my memory for the remainder of my life. This all being said, there were a number of action movie one-liners that devalued the gravity of the situation, and evoke comparison with movies from the Avengers series. Not saying there's anything wrong with the Avengers series, it just doesn't meld well with Evangelion's existential, psychological, and spiritual themes. Overall though, the fight sequences were spectacular to watch, and I'll be coming back very soon to watch it, again and again, to marvel at its visual splendor. Now back to the story. Gendo meets with Misato, while Ritsuko shoots him. If you watch my Evangelion breakdown, you know that I compared Gendo to the Demiurge, i.e. the false god according to the Gnostics. The false god who, out of ignorance, wants to destroy the emanations of God. Gendo's version of human instrumentality is coming to fruition. The fourth impact will purify the soul by guiding the collective intelligence of man to paradise. In my analysis video, I claimed that Gendo was an egomaniac par excellence, a man who wished to supplant the collective unconscious, the world of the gods, through the amplification of the ego consciousness, which he labels as intelligence. Contrast this with Seele. Their goal was to merge with the world of the gods via becoming LCL. Gendo, on the other hand, wants to supersede the gods via casting off the humanity of humankind to become something new entirely. We may even liken this to the pursuit of the Übermensch or the Overman, a Nietzschean ideal that seeks to overcome the rudimentary state of mankind in the wake of the death of God. Shinji calls for his father, but Gendo enters Eva 13. Misato claims that beyond the realms of Guff is the anti-universe, a realm Wunder cannot enter. Before explaining this concept, I must first acknowledge and thank a fellow YouTuber who was so kind to give me a shout out on his channel, Mr. Max Darrett. And if you haven't seen his channel before, he has phenomenal videos on anime, games, Carl Jung, and much more. So go check out his channel right now. If you haven't watched his Evangelion analysis, please do so right now, because he hits on concepts that are pivotal to understanding the series. Specifically, the implementation of the Adam-Kadmon mythic tradition. According to Jewish mysticism, in the Garden of Eden, there is a tree of souls, which creates new souls, which, henceforth, fall into Guf, the treasury of souls. Now in Hebrew, the word Guf means body, which seems contradictory since the Guf is composed of souls. This, ostensibly, makes sense when the story of Adam-Kadmon is taken into account. Adam-Kadmon was God's original intention, and when Adam sinned, every soul fragmented from the world's soul, that is Adam-Kadmon. Sound familiar? This is how Lilin, i.e. humans, were created in Evangelion, from the fragments of Lilith's body. Sally's mission was to reunite with the androgynous Adam-Kadmon by returning to LCL, the blood of God / Adam-Kadmon. Notice too how this image bears a resemblance to the psychological model that Carl Jung used to delineate the conscious from the unconscious. The anti-universe emulates the shadow portion of our psyches, a realm we material beings cannot enter unless we embark upon a dream excursion or a hallucinogenic drug trip, or, possibly, through an Eva movie trip. Let's continue. Shinji aims to pilot Eva 1, but the crew members object by saying he's brought misfortune. Misato takes the bullet for Shinji, and the others agree to let him go. Shinji and Mari enter the anti-universe. Shinji encounters Ayanami, saying he'll take it from here. Misato and the crew are shocked to find out Shinji's sync rate is infinite with his Evangelion. This harkens to the Ouroboros, the animalistic impulses that exist deep within our souls. Shinji and Gendo engage each other inside the dreamlike existence, with Shinji waking up in a hospital. The LCL has manifested an artificial world for the two to play in. In a sequence mimicking episode 1, Shinji combats his father in an Eva battle. The fight transports to a myriad of familiar locations, one of which being Misato's apartment, where Shinji falls into a wall that leads to a movie set. This harkens to Plato's allegory of the cave. Just as the shadows on the wall serve as the prisoner's reality, so does the mecha battle serve as the viewer's reality. That's right. This is meta-symbolism on Anno's part, to elicit deeper contemplation. This story is not just about a fictional character on the screen. It's a story about all of us. We thus need to break free of the cave / TV screen by stepping outside to experience higher levels of reality. It's a bit cheeky on Anno's part, but I believe he does it in an endearing way. Gendo speaks about the duality of man, something that is portrayed numerous times in the following battle scenes. As the battle cools off, Shinji and Gendo talk one-on-one. Gendo takes Shinji to Black Lilith, or what appears to be Black Lilith. This Lilith is fictional and imaginary, contrasting the real Lilith by looking like its unholy shadow. Another Jungian reference, by the way. Eva Imaginary initiates the fourth impact. After speaking to Mari, Fuyutsuki looks at an image of Yue and turns into LCL. Mari begins overlapping with several Evas as Wunder ejects the seeds of life to be preserved. Gendo wishes to live in an existence of souls where everything is equal and peaceful. Fucking commie bastard, am I right? Shinji uses this opportunity to cross-examine his father, but Gendo unconsciously puts up his AT field, revealing that he is afraid of his own son. Afraid of himself, really, since they are one and the same. Gendo reveals his disdain for others, and his inclination to remain alone with his books and his piano. This harkens to Nietzsche's life, a man who was underappreciated during his lifetime, and thus utilized his creative passions to immerse himself with the deluge of knowledge and a hope to transcend humankind through the Übermensch. Underneath these lofty aspirations for both men lie tormented souls, who merely sought love and compassion that was sorely missing from their lives. Yue changed this reality for Gendo for some time, until her untimely death. Meanwhile, Misato aims to transform the Wunder's spinal system into a spear to throw at Eva Imaginary. After ramming the eye of Eva Imaginary, the spear of Gaius, i.e. humanity's will, pierces through, completing Misato's sacrifice for Kaji, her son. The spear manifests in Shinji's hands. Gendo finally finds closure in his life, thus leaving the train. Shinji changes his attention to Asuka, who suffers from isolation issues, just like Gendo. We then see a scene resembling the end of Evangelion, serving as a redemption for Asuka's soul. We find out that Karuru plays a predestined, circular role for all of eternity. In my Evangelion analysis, I analogize Karuru with Jesus Christ, i.e. the psychological self. This psychological center, the Imago Dei, image of God, exists within all of us, and serves as an archetype to merge all psychic content into the center, thus producing the individuated person who divests themselves from false wrappings and embraces their fate. Amor fati, as it were. Kaiji rightly dubs Karuru as the intermediary, the one who brings together opposites in harmony. Shinji tells Rei that he will live in a world of a new beginning, Neon Genesis, without the Evangelions, thus permitting him to escape the unconscious world of dreams and fantasies. Yue pushes Shinji out of the unconscious realm, which, none so surprisingly, is in water. She, after all, existed within him as his anima spirit, his feminine soul, as it were. The Evangelions are pierced through their hearts, returning the spirits of everyone back to their material, human forms. Shinji then sees Mari descend into the water. Mari, thanks to units 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, which equals 50, and in the Bible, 50 is the number of the Holy Spirit. It's also a symbol of freedom, release, and a new cycle, which coincides well with the ending here. We then see Asuka, Rei, and Karuru on a train platform as Mari sneaks up on Shinji. Mari takes off Shinji's DSS choker, the final item that linked him to his Evangelion fantasy, so that he may finally enter the real world again, as an adult, ending a tumultuous chapter in his life. And with that, my friends, this ends the final chapter in the Evangelion story. I would personally rank this movie as great, right up there with the end of Evangelion. The original series, in my mind, is a masterpiece, and I don't think this movie quite got there, but it's still phenomenal nonetheless. But with that said, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video, and please remember to take care of yourself.